Hello everyone and welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host Harrison Scullin, and today I got my very special guest, my brother Hunter. And today we'll be discussing Ashes and Diamonds from 1958, starring Zbigniew Cybulski and directed by Andrzej Wajda. All right, so after butchering those names, how are you doing, Hunter?
I'm just realizing the entire Wikipedia article I read, I was pronouncing it Wanja in my head. Like ganja, but with a W.
Oh.
But that wasn't correct.
Oh, yes, the devil's lettuce.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, how's it going? Why don't you introduce yourself to people who may not know who you are?
My name is Hunter. I'm Harrison's younger brother. Clearly in need of a mental institution. Clearly not very funny, so I'm gonna stop trying. I'm just up at college studying mechanical engineering and watching the occasional movie with my brother. I am on Letterboxd, as it says right here, at It's a Good Movie. But honestly, the last just over a month, I haven't been on social media at all. Well, okay, I take that back. I've been using Facebook Messenger to talk to some friends. But I don't use social media, and I love my life all the more for it. So
you're so much happier than all of us, right?
Well, I really feel a lot happier. I don't need to go on social media every morning or every night or every free moment when I'm not getting social interaction. So
yeah,
it's kind of nice. No, actually, this is so stupid. I've literally been reading more because I'm not on social media.
Well, so I've been listening to books more. I'm almost done with Dune.
Ooh, I have been reading Dune, but I am weak. I don't know if I will finish. I should read it. That'll make me happy. It's a good thing.
It's a good book. I recommend it.
Very good. Anyways, that's me.
Well, cool.
I'm not important. I'm not a movie critic. I will not be able to add anything important to the academic discussion of the movie, and that's okay.
That's all right. Well, and if you want to see more of our antics, there's several episodes where Hunter's been on for Universal Monsters, Comic-Con, even silent films. So he's just as much of an expert as me. He's just being a little bashful.
Very expert.
Very much expert. All right. Well, before we get started, have you ever heard of or had any experience with Ashes and Diamonds before?
Nope. I had no idea what it was. And actually, I didn't realize it was a Polish movie. I thought it was just about Polish people, and I was like, wow, in the 60s, right on.
Yeah. No, kind of similar for me. I just knew about it just from the 1001 Movies to See Before You Die. And honestly, that's the only reason why I added this movie. I was like, sure, another one to check off, Didn't read anything about it, knew pretty much nothing. I, too, had no idea it was going to be completely in Polish.
Yeah.
So that kind of threw me for a loop.
I know. I was like, well, I guess I got to look at the screen the whole time.
I got to read.
No, but on that note, too, as soon as it started and I noticed the Criterion Collection had reproduced it, I didn't look at any reviews, or I tried really hard not to read anything about it, minus I had to read the plot because low-key I got a little distracted and didn't really remember who was who. But just because
it's tough. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, with some of these more classic movies, I don't want to be influenced by what everyone's already said.
No,
other
absolutely.
than you should watch it. That was enough influence for me. But
Yeah. No, same. I mean, we got to figure, right? It's in this 1001 Movies. It's got to have some reason to watch it, right?
Right.
So,
what is that reason? I'm not sure, but
I want to say though, I remember it was either Scorsese or Spielberg. One of them, I think they mentioned that they really liked this movie before, but
According to my Wikipedia article,
I think it was Scorsese.
watch this. Uh-oh. Where in my Wikipedia article?
Command F.
Oh, oh! You think I know how to spell Scorsese?
SCOR.
Oh, I got it. Okay. So, okay, now after watching it and thinking of my own review, then I allowed myself to read some reviews. Okay. But anyways, Scorsese, Miyazaki, Francis Ford Coppola, and two other dudes who I've never heard of said it, listed it as one of their favorite films of all time.
Well, there you go. So I must have been reading the same thing, or
We
maybe
must
even
have been on
IMDb
the
or something.
same part of Wikipedia.
Yeah, the same depths over there, right? Well, cool. Well, that's kind of everybody else's thoughts on it. Let's kind of get into our own.
Mm.
We'll start off with the plot, and since you're our guest, you'll go first. What are your thoughts on the plot? What would you score?
Okay. I actually scored, honestly, well, okay. I scored pretty high. I'm not remembering how this whole averaging thing works,
That's okay.
but because my final score would make one assume I gave it a perfect score. However, I would say like a 4 on the plot, only because it took me a bit to figure out what kind of movie it was going to be. So like what I went in anticipating, just reading a brief synopsis of the plot versus what I got were two different things, which is my own fault, I guess. Like my expectations were different. So I guess that doesn't. Why would that detract from the plot score? I just didn't realize that we were gonna have to sit and wait with the character. Like literally that. I thought, I don't know. Like in my head, other stories I've read or other movies I've seen of like some form of like coup or operation. It's very focused on like the mechanism of that operation.
Right.
Whereas
Kind of the
this movie did
structure of
not. Right, and this one did not take time for that at all. It was actually like, let's sit with our characters now, mulling over all of these incredibly impactful events that have occurred, whether it was the failed operation, a new one that's being prepared for, and the end of World War II. So like, actually, so I don't know. So I like that a lot. And I like when we get to sit with the characters versus be mesmerized by the moving mechanisms of some clever story. So
Yeah. Cool. So you gave it a 4. Well, I also gave it a 4. I agree with a lot what you were saying. I honestly thought it was going to be more like like an A-Team type of movie, right? Where we see how they come up with the assassination plots and whatnot. But in reality, it's not quite. But this is almost a real-time type of movie where it's like, I think it's only a couple of days that the movie takes place, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's just like 24 hours, honestly.
Yeah, like it feels like real time almost. And I like that, but I wasn't a huge fan of the romantic subplot. I kind of wanted just more about the assassination, right? Because there are these characters that were in like a room. One guy was bald, kind of like Homer Simpson. Like I wanted to know more about the other people who were involved. Like I wanted to know what the plot was, I guess.
Yeah.
Of what they were trying to carry out, not just, oh, we failed to kill the guy. Okay, let's try again, right? But we don't actually see him do that. We just, oh yeah, remember those other guys who died? Like they're just talking to each other of the
reminiscing, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, but they were talking about the war.
Yeah.
At the same time that they're singing this song about the like triumph of the communist Polish over the people who were part of the uprising. So
right,
to them it's kind of a pretty serious emotional moment.
Yeah. And maybe it's just the fact that I'm not Polish and I don't know much about Polish history. Like I'm sure overseas, like this movie to the people in Poland, this did really well with them because it's like, yeah, this is literally what it was like when communism triumphed and all of that. Because if I'm not mistaken, they were communists for a long time until like the fall of Berlin, and if I'm not mistaken, but
Yeah.
like,
Well, to that point, and actually kind of a significant change in the plot, the movie is based off of a novel that was written in the 40s, the late 40s, following World War II. But from what I was reading, it originally was, or the book itself is much more sympathetic towards the Communist Party in Poland. And early adaptations were intentionally trying to maintain that. But Wadja, what was his name?
Andrzej Wajda.
Wajda, yeah, Andrzej
That's how you
Wajda.
say it.
Andrzej Ganja, when he had the opportunity for his adaptation, wanted to be more sympathetic to the
freedom fighters, or
the anti-communist underground fighters, and apparently that caused issues that not necessarily, but they intentionally filmed in a different location and things like that to avoid having too much influence after receiving permission to make the film. So that's something I would actually love to look into more. But just to produce the film had to be reviewed and confirmed or approved by
the Communist Board.
By a committee of like legislators. That's just really interesting to me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, knowing Criterion, I hope they have a documentary about it, because they always go all out on that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I too would be curious to know how they made this movie.
Yeah. So actually, I wonder. I mean, I would love to look into it more. I just finished watching the movie today, so I haven't had time to actually think about it. I would be interested to look into it more if there was specific intentions by the director and the production to say any particular message. Because, for example, the romance, part of the reason why I liked that, I thought it was kind of, well, actually, I liked it a lot because I felt like it humanized the resistance and their efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it really added this heart element to the characters. And so I guess and whatever, it doesn't matter. One of the adaptations that wasn't approved, I guess there had been a couple attempts to make the movie. His friend, who, so later in the bathroom, he's like, I don't know if I can do this. And the guy's like, don't care, deserter. Apparently in the original, he blackmails the main character to go through with the assassination, and then he changes his mind and joins forces with the guy he's supposed to assassinate.
Oh wow.
So yeah, there's some pretty drastic differences between the film we have versus the source material. But
I'd like to see that.
The messaging is totally different. So
yeah, because this movie doesn't feel like a propaganda film. I just recently watched Alexander Nevsky, which is another Russian film, and that one is definitely a Soviet propaganda film, even though it has nothing to do with the Soviets. In fact, it was the 1400s, but it feels like, oh, you must stand up to the German, because there was these German invaders, right?
Yeah.
But it felt very much like Soviets versus Nazis. It did not feel like 14th century Russia,
Right.
But this movie does not feel like that. This one, it almost feels like an Italian, what do they call it? Neorealism. These are kind of movies made after World War II, like Rome Open City and whatnot, where they're almost a film noir. It's kind of bleak and not quite cynical, but it's close to being
almost cynical. I think it kind of did make a it kind of just paints a portrait of, it's a time of celebration, and I guess we can later when we talk about cinematography, a lot of the celebration to the audience is not, you don't feel present celebrating. You feel more of the somber attitude of some of the other members there. Even one of the characters has the opportunity. He was like a rebel and anti-communist, but now he has an opportunity to like have a position, like a political position.
Yeah, higher up one. Yeah.
And like he's sitting there talking with the Democratic press guy.
Yeah, the drunk old guy.
The drunk old guy. But like even those two who arguably like he could get something great out of this. Like that's not what he wanted from the beginning. I don't know. So there's just something about it that says like it's almost like saying there is no good option. But I don't know if that's what they're trying to do. But whether you are a resistance fighter with the end of the film, turned out great for him, didn't it? Or one of the upper leaders of the communists. I mean, he also died, so spoilers. But
right. Well,
I don't know. So either way, both parties suffer.
Yeah, it's almost like no one really wins at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody kind of loses in a way.
Yeah. So I honestly watching it was almost like I got to see. I don't know. It's like I got to just sit with these people and experience their lives versus a more deliberate walk through some plot.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right. Well, since we're kind of talking about the characters, what are your thoughts on the acting?
I thought it was great. I would give acting a 5. I thought it was really good. Especially now that I've seen some other films from the era. I felt like this was a little bit more grounded than some of the other movies that I've seen recently. Mm-hmm. I thought, the main actor, I thought he was great, actually. I thought he did a really good job. There were a few, reading about him, I guess he was kind of like a famous theater actor as well. There were a few things that felt very theater to me.
Yeah.
That took me out of it. But actually, I really liked a lot of his mannerisms and his pauses and like this scene where they're in his room, he and the girl. And she's
Christina,
like looking,
I think, right?
Yeah, Christina.
Yeah.
She's like looking off and it's like all about what they are both seeing. So he's like looking around the room, he's thinking about the gun he was working on or whatever. He's also communicating with her. And it's like that's the start of his conflict between, it's not the start, but part of it, it's kind of demonstrating the conflict he has, I felt like, of whether he should go through with this or if it is even worth it, if it even matters. But as she talks to him, and I don't know, there's something about like the way he was acting in that scene that I actually really liked. I thought was just really well done. And it's unique. It's like, while it was grounded, there are also, I feel like, elements that remind you that this was made in an older time. And I don't know, I kind of appreciate that, actually. It's like taking a step back and appreciating an older form of acting versus... Actually, well, I don't know. I guess by the 60s, acting is... Well, I guess in America, acting is kind of being more grounded, and there's a lot more realistic and kind of gritty movies versus kind of silly, goofy, but
yeah,
I thought this movie kind of hit that lane a little bit too.
Europe definitely had much more serious films after World War II. Mm-hmm. For us, that didn't really happen until mid-60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
Once all the more realism type thing came in.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it was still like the happy musical, whimsical stuff, which, I don't know, I kind of like that a little bit more, but...
I had a feeling that you'd feel that way about this. Like, I felt like this was... I think it's a great movie, and I think for film lovers all around, they should watch it, but I had a feeling that you personally, this probably is not a film that you would choose to put on like a Wednesday night.
But, I don't know, just with American film noir, there's always a happy ending, happy resolution. Right. Mm-hmm. Even if that means people die in it, there's still a happy one. This, to me, was a little too serious, I guess. There's no character for me or actor that really stood out to me where I was like, okay, here's our hero, right? Here's our little thing. But I don't know.
See, that's all you got to do to have some important movie that everybody cares about. It's just end sad, and we're like, what the? Now I got to think about my feelings, and then people are like, good movie. That's a good movie.
Yeah, I got to.
I'm just kidding.
I don't want to think about my feelings. No, but I actually did really like, although there were some scenes he was a little hammy, in my opinion. I did like, I'm going to butcher it, Zbigniew Cybulski. He plays the main character with the sunglasses.
Yeah.
I actually did like him in most of the scenes. He was definitely the most unique and different from everybody else.
Yes.
And kind of as a side note, you may have read this too, but he's kind of considered the Polish James Dean for two reasons. One, because he's kind of got a swagger and handsome like him, right? But also because he died very young too. Kind of like James Dean. He died in a tragic accident on a movie set.
Really?
Yeah. Or was it away from a movie set? I can't remember, but it was from a train. Like he died on a train.
Jeez.
I think he was trying to jump on it or jump off. But yeah, so in that way too, that kind of cements. I think I remember Scorsese or somebody saying the tragedy of this actor, because he's really only known for this movie because he only did like 3.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I'd be curious to see what he's like in other films, but I don't know. I don't know how many Polish movies like that are even available in America. But
yeah. Interesting.
But I liked him. I also liked the actor who played the minister / mayor guy. I thought he was pretty good as like a communist, almost dictator. I mean, he's the mayor, right? But I really liked him. And also the Suzuka, the target, the guy they're trying to kill. I actually really liked him too.
I thought so too. This dude, does he not look just like the evil fat guy in Dune?
Oh yeah. Vladimir Harkonnen.
Yeah. What's that actor's name?
Is it Bill Skarsgård?
Bill Skarsgård.
Or is that one of his son's nephews?
I don't know. That one.
Skarsgård.
The one who does. I don't know if this is true either, but you know the Conan Must Go show?
Oh, yeah.
Whoever that opening voice kind of sounds like him too.
I think that's Werner, or a guy pretending to be like Werner Herzog.
Oh, Werner Herzog. Yeah. Okay. If it's not him, it's the guy who sounds like. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole time, that's what I thought. Every time he came on the screen, I was like, looks like the Skarsgård guy.
The Baron.
Yeah.
Yes. But, yeah, I mean...
Sorry, that was totally, like, not important, but...
That's all right. But just overall, there was no actor that really I was connecting with, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, there's no one who I felt like was the hero or anyone like that.
And I wonder... Because I thought we were going to see the main character, Zbigniew, the actor. What was the character's name?
Oh, it's like Messia or something.
Mesik. Yeah.
We always do speak Polish, guys.
Clearly. I know. We got to call Carter.
I tried to get him on very last minute. He's like, I can't. I feel so dumb. I was like, I didn't realize it was going to be Polish.
I know. He would have eaten that up. He should still watch it. Maybe that'll be an opportunity to hear his thoughts.
Yeah.
But I thought he was going to be like the hero. And I wonder if maybe that's intentional. Like the way it's done, we can't really relate with him as his hero. I mean, I think when he becomes a little more idealistic and he's like, I want something more. I don't want to be living, running. I want to be studying. I want to be, doing something bright in my life instead of so bleak. That was the moment where I was like, yeah, I as a 60s youth in Poland, I don't know. Like I'm supposed to like relate to that and grab onto that idea of there has to be something more beyond just fight and death. And maybe to him, he just felt like it was going to be meaningless. It wasn't going to have the impact that they had hoped for. But yeah, so I don't, or even too, if there was a slight intention to perpetuate propaganda with the film, we can't really relate with them. But we also don't look at the partying folk as like people to sympathize with either. So
well, and now that you mention all of that, I think they said he was born in 21, so he was 24. Like he spent most of his teenage years because if he started in 39, that's 6 years.
Yeah.
From 14 or 20 to 18, from 18 to 24. Like that's a long time.
Yeah. Right. Well, and actually that almost felt very Vietnam. Like you're at that prime moment to like the turn of your youth, and it's being spent in conflict, or it's being spent in danger. And anyways.
Right. Yeah. So I like that depth to it, but
you're right though. I don't think it was written to be like for example, you're talking about LA Noire. I just watched, I don't even know if this is a noir, or not LA Noire. Whatever, film noir. I just watched LA Confidential the other night.
Oh.
I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
No, I haven't.
It's really good. You should watch it. But also, I don't know. That's just like the most recent film in mind that like has a very clear. You latch onto the characters by the end, and there's a happy ending. Ties up the bow, and you're all like, nice. Anyways, but there's also more seriousness, and there's more. It's kind of gritty, and there's kind of like sadness and whatever. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, have you seen Touch of Evil yet? Hermano.
Dude, maybe I'll watch that tonight because I need to do something. Crazy.
Well, that one, actually, this movie kind of reminded me of that one a little bit in the sense of the tone and whatnot, but that one also has happy endings. So
right.
I think it's just the European film movements, because after the war, like we've been saying, they turned really dark for a while. And that kind of trickled over here too.
Well, it makes sense. Actually, it's kind of encapsulated in the line by the hotel worker, where everyone's celebrating and stuff, and he's like, "But we're celebrating a destroyed Warsaw." Like,
right. It's not the same Warsaw.
Right. So there's definitely some deeper emotions and feeling there. Interesting.
Yes.
Anyways, great acting.
Great acting.
What did you say you gave it?
I gave it a 4.
4. There was, I think 2. Okay, maybe this is just me, but like kisses pre like 70s movies are just so hard to watch. They're just like they're always just like smashing their faces together super hard. It's like, look how passionate they are, and he's gonna leave her forever, whatever. Okay, I get it, but like, doesn't that hurt you? Like, I don't know, you're like gonna hurt your lips or something, or like like, I don't know, get a fat lip. I don't, whatever. Anyways.
Yeah, but then again, though, he's kind of an extreme person anyway. So is that just him reacting to that? Because like to defend other old Hollywood movies, most kisses are not like that. That one seemed very like get over here.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, maybe. Well, again, I've only seen a few older movies, but when they kiss, I'm like, ah. Or it's like a Christmas movie, and the camera turns away or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's very cheesy. Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
No worries. All right, well, let's move on to directing. What were your thoughts on directing?
I'm a little conflicted. Hear me out.
Okay.
I don't know when I'm seeing the director's hand versus I'm just watching a good movie. Or well, I guess the director's what helping making it be a good movie, but also when I'm supposed to critique the directing, my brain rock is a little small and it's a little confused.
Sure.
Like, what am I even looking at?
Okay. How about like the staging of the scenes, or like how the editing flows, or all that kind of stuff?
Interesting. Okay.
Did it feel like a movie when you were watching it, or did it capture your imagination?
I thought movies were supposed to capture my imagination.
Right, but that's how you know if it's a good or a bad one.
Yeah, am I coming out of it, or interesting. Then I will give it a 4 because I thought it was great. I don't feel like I think at one point, before I really realized that the movie wanted us to sit with the characters and think with the characters and reminisce. Like the movie is a lot about just reminiscing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the director's forcing us to do that with the characters. Once I got onto that train, I was like, all right, I'm here for it. I loved it. I don't think I got distracted. Or I feel like it did captivate my attention.
Yeah.
And maybe this is more cinematography, but watching the movie, I think there were a couple. Well, okay, but that's cinematography. I don't know. See, it's all the same in my head. I don't know.
Mm.
I just look at it. It's a good movie. A few shots were just a little weird. So those were the things that took me out of it, I think. But overall, I felt like even like when characters are acting drunk or acting silly or whatever, it didn't come out. It felt like tonally very consistent. So like it wasn't like I was taken out. Okay, for example, when we watched the Spanish Dracula.
Oh yeah.
I don't really remember what I said, but there was just something about how like the one crazy guy, Renfield, when he would act a little crazy, it would take me out of the movie. Like he'd kind of become a character a little bit.
Yeah.
And like now thinking, like when I actually remember back to that, it reminds me that like I'm watching a performance.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily feel that here, but I don't know if that's more directing or acting or. It just felt inconsistent from like some of the imagery that I was seeing and some of the like moods that were being like presented to me versus the way he was acting. There was kind of some contradiction there, but in this movie, it felt very consistent.
Yeah. Well, for me, when it comes to directing, it's more of about like the premise that they set up. Were they successful in carrying that out? And were there any instances where I felt like there was, I don't know, like something that threw me off or took me out of it or stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go ahead and tell you mine then. I gave it a 5 out of 5, mostly because I thought the staging of each scene was really, really cool.
Yeah.
A little bit cinematography, but like the one scene, most of the movie is in a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way they were able to go to different parts of the bar, it felt like a lot larger than what it really was.
Mm-hmm.
Like the scene where Cybulski, whatever his name is. Zbigniew. When he was like moving the cups down and they started singing the song, right? I imagined the things that they were talking about and going through, like remember this different battle or this and that, and
right.
I don't know, just the way that was set up and the way just all that put together really helped me, connect in that moment with those characters. Yeah. And I love those choices there. And like I was mentioning, it feels like a film noir to me. I like film noir. So I'm always intrigued when dialogue is really interesting and kind of makes you think more outside of the film than just with the bounds of it.
Right.
Because that to me is the power of dialogue. And I really like the choices that were made here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I like
because the director, he kind of brings it all together and he's like, okay, let's put this here. Let's cut out that scene. Sort of like you go stand there, right? Put the camera here. It's kind of just a culmination of all of those things and if he actually succeeded in his vision or not.
Right. Well, and to that point, kind of back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, I guess you should give a lot of credit to the directing because the movie is very different from the book it was based off of. Mm-hmm. And there were some very intentional, deliberate changes made to be more sympathetic towards different characters, to focus on different elements of the story than the book itself.
Right.
Or to remove certain characters in certain scenes, or to kind of modify relationships to give us the film that we have. And also doing all of that while figuring out how to present the film in a way that they could make it and still appease the committee that was overseeing the production of the film. So I don't know. I wonder if he had a different intention than what we have, or a different vision, and this
Yeah,
was to the
maybe.
best of their ability working together. I there's that line in the Wikipedia article kind of stands out in my head of like they intentionally chose a city far from um, that access to the committee to film the production. They also started filming slightly before they received permission.
Oh wow.
So there must have been some passion behind it, why he wanted to produce this film the way he produced it, and why he intentionally kind of jumped through some of these hoops to um, start production and to complete production with limited involvement from outside hands. But
Yeah. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Denis Villeneuve's Dune movies, where it's not completely a faithful adaptation, but the choices he made were for the reasons he wanted to do. Like he wanted to kind of more focus on Paul and Shawnee and this new part, and kind of change a little bit of the background characters in the first one. Like we don't see Thufir as much, right? So I get what you're saying there. Like there must have been something about these specific characters and this specific way of telling this story that he wanted to do.
mm-hmm. And what is that? I don't know. I haven't read enough Wikipedia articles.
And neither of us have read the book. So if you've read the book, let us know how close it is or not.
I know.
Like most people say, the book is better, right?
Well, if you want for propaganda.
Right. But just you telling me though, all those steps he had to take, that it's impressive you could get any version of what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't imagine. I mean, it's kind of like what we have now, with all the different studio heads, all the different producers. So I guess it's not too different now.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, actually. Yeah, everyone wants to stick their fingers into art and have some message to perpetuate their own ideas instead of just the artist's idea. But should we really give the artist a voice either? I don't know. Just play.
It has to be a healthy balance because, speaking of directors, I absolutely love Touch of Evil, Citizen Kane, right? But I think Orson Welles, he's a little crazy because there's that one movie, Other Side of the Wind. I tried watching it. It is bizarre. It's the weirdest because he had no studio interference with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Completely bizarre, weird, hippie crap. So it's like, well, maybe the studios were onto something.
That's funny.
Because he almost never got, other than Citizen Kane, he almost never got final cut for his movies. They always interfered and changed them.
Right.
So it's almost like they might have been onto something.
Or he was on something.
Well,
Not on
definitely.
to something, just on something.
He's just on something.
That's funny.
So it's always interesting hearing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, kind of talking about cinematography. Not really, but we'll talk about it anyway. What were your thoughts?
I'll give it a 5 or 4.5. Just because there were a couple just kind of awkward shots. Just like there was a lot of low angle shots that some I thought were actually really good. Like when there's one where the music director gets up in front of the crowd for the first time, and I'm sitting below the crowd looking up at him, but it's actually a little unsettling. It's like the start of the party, the start of festivities, but I'm a little off put actually by just from that angle looking up at him, being crowded by shoulders of people and arms of people, seeing him.
Yeah.
I love how intentional though all the framing is in the movie, and like even in one shot, the framing changing from a super close up of one character, camera pans super close up of another character, like very intentional lighting on their faces, and the way they're filling up the screen was just like it was just very clearly planned and methodical, and I loved that. A lot of different shadow shots, and actually my favorite shot in the whole movie is right before or right after the murder has occurred. and the main character he's like rustling through his things. I think it's right after actually, because he opens the blinds and the sun rays are coming into the room, and you see how his arm shadows are affecting kind of the rays and the dust of the room.
Yeah.
I love that shot because it's almost completely black. It's almost completely dark by like the walls in the room or furniture or whatever it is, and then the beams of light are coming through around him, and as he's moving around in the room, like I don't know, just the dance of the dust particles and the rays of light. I just thought was beautiful.
Yeah.
I've also recently been looking at a lot of like graphic novel art or just like comic art in general, like inks, and like there's a Darwin Cook comic called Parker, I think. Or I don't know, he was the illustrator, and there's I don't know, it kind of fits a kind of 50s 60s aesthetic, a noir aesthetic that I think, like that shot specifically, but a few others kind of stand out to me in my head of like, I don't know, going for more of that like designed framing, design between the light and the dark.
Yeah. No, I really like that too. I actually gave it a 5 out of 5.
I only gave it a 4.5 out of 5 just because the one shot. There's one shot in the room of the mayor guy or the big important leader guy who like, I don't know, like someone knocks on the door. The camera's like sitting and someone knocks and the camera shakes like the camera was the door.
Oh.
And then it cuts to him and then it cuts back to the door and the door opens. And it's like this really weird, it's just kind of a weird angle. And I was like, that looks weird. That's the only reason I took off 0.5.
Well, from what I was reading about the camera work and whatnot, at least according to the IMDb page, the director was heavily inspired by Citizen Kane. So if you remember that movie, there's a lot of weird lower angle shots in that movie.
I've never seen it.
Oh, really? Well, I know what you're doing tonight. No. Well, in that one, most movies had never shown ceilings before because most of it was made on a stage. And so what was unique was they were in actual buildings or they would make a false ceiling so that when they tilted the camera up, it looked like they were in a big room. Oh, wow. So anyways, the guy who made this movie was heavily inspired by that. You could definitely tell, especially like the ones you were mentioning, like I think he was the minister guy or whatever. He looks kind of like Charles Foster Kane in one scene where he's just like taking up the whole screen and almost looks like a god in a way.
Yeah.
But my favorite scene in particular, so I believe his name is Andres, the main character's friend who was working with him. He was like on the phone talking to the other resistance leader. So he's talking on the phone. He's saying, "Oh yeah, we got rid of that Scodgewell, whatever his name is. Yeah, we got rid of him. Don't worry about it." And then as he's saying that, the bad guy actually walks in. Just the way it's framed, where like the dialogue and all that matches up with the people walking and just all that was really, really interesting to me.
Yeah.
I really, really liked that because the audience is like, "Hey, look behind you. Look behind you."
Right.
Until the big new, goodness gracious, these names. He's like tapping on the glass. He's like, "He's right there."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, yeah. I'll call you back. We did not win. We did not succeed." I really liked that scene. I thought that was a really, really cool shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's just, it's dynamic. It's not, compared to some other films that I've seen, the camera doesn't just sit.
And right. It moves around.
Even to like the scene you mentioned earlier where he lights all the glasses. And that I actually loved that for some reason. Just the way the camera like shifted and sat down onto the table and he slides the glasses towards the camera. And the way, I don't know, it was just like, this is cool, man. I don't know, it was cool.
Yeah, very unique and very different. Because like you said, so many movies in this era, they're on a stage, so the camera can only be here, here, and here. You know, like they couldn't do a whole lot, or if they had a dolly, but no, like this felt like it was a handheld camera. They were putting in interesting and weird places to kind of make you feel unsettled, and I thought they did excellent here.
Yeah. Very good.
Very good. All right. Let's talk about the music.
Music. Does the movie have any music?
Not really.
Aside from the band performing, which I think actually, yeah, I think that's totally intentional. That actually was my first cue that this was going to be a more reminiscent, kind of a slower film. Actually, now that I think about it, because the opening scene, the only sounds you get are the birds or the guns firing, or vehicles. Like it's, I don't know. It almost slows down the mystical aspect of a movie. I don't know. It kind of grounded the movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure there's not music in the movie, or if there is, it is the band.
Yeah, right. When people are actually playing instruments or singing or whatever, I think you're right. I think that's pretty much it.
And I love that. I'll give it a 5 just because it makes it so atmospheric and grounded. Yeah, grounded's a good word. I will say though, maybe I'll take off 0.5 or I'll take off 0.2. I don't know, whatever. Just because when it comes to like the audio mixing, there are a few times where it's like characters are talking and there isn't really any background noise, and then all of a sudden the crowd gets super loud outside the window, so he goes and closes the window. But like, you didn't hear people until that exact moment when the crowd starts getting louder. So it's not quite. Maybe that's like limits of technology, or just I don't know. The intention wasn't to. I feel like in a movie now, we would have been hearing people in the background the whole time. There would have been kind of more kind of ambient noise.
Right. And
But,
then kind of progressively we start to hear it, not just a hard sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But so that would take me out of it and remind me I'm watching a movie actually. But I think it's also kind of a artifact of the period, the time the film was made. But
sure. Yeah. Well, actually, for the reasons why you gave it a 5, I gave it a 3 because we just have music in those certain scenes. I don't know. To me, I think music kind of helps the story along. And I don't know, there's so many movies I could think of. If it didn't have music, it'd be just so awkward. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen, there's people have posted the video of like the end of A New Hope, for example, where they're like walking towards Princess Leia to get their medals. Well, people took out the music. So it's just them walk, 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 walk. Hey, how's it going? Like, it's really awkward. I don't know. Like, I think music helps set the tone too. So I think it could have used some. It doesn't need a whole lot. It doesn't even have to be a full score. But to me, it felt lacking and a little dead. Not gonna, it felt a little dead.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder. I don't know. I think the it's a little bit. I think I did this earlier. Even comparing it to like film noir, it's a little bit apples and oranges. Like if we compare it to Star Wars and we take out the music, that film specifically, it's weird. But I think like the music does a lot of the emotional heavy lifting for us in Star Wars, for example. Like the intense fight scenes, they amp up the music to get you emotionally invested. Or if someone's gazing longingly at two suns in the sky or whatever it is, and there's kind of this beautiful music moving around, but it's like because we don't hear the thoughts of this character, the music is kind of that bridge between us and him, and because it fits the mood that he's feeling or experiencing, like we're now sharing our emotions and our thoughts with that character, even though we don't actually know what he's thinking. Whereas this movie, I think, is intentionally like letting silence do the talking and letting a lack of score ground us and set us into that room with the characters. I don't know. I don't know. I felt like I was. Anyways, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm getting all ethereal and opinion. But I'm just saying I disagree. I think it did better because it didn't have music.
Yeah.
To serve this film and what I feel like the tone of the film was. Like, actually, kind of actually, you know what? To exactly what you just said, the film would be completely different if it had a score, which I personally think so. So I think that's to the intentionality of not having a score. Makes it better, makes it into the film it was meant to be.
And maybe so. And like we've been talking, it's kind of meant to be more of a realistic movie, right? We don't have music surrounding us all the time, but I do think music does help us connect with characters.
Yeah.
And just to have any kind of music, and it could even have been the girl who was singing, right? Like it could have been just the character's reactions to the singing. We get a little bit, but not a whole lot. I don't know, just some way of connecting us in that way, I think would have been better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe that's just the neo-realism that Andre Ganja was going for.
Yeah. Yep. Mm.
All right. So, tallying that all up, what does that bring your letterbox score to?
Well, I clearly was conflating the numbers as much as I could, because I was just going to give it a 5, but I didn't want to give it 5s all the way around. So, however that comes out, it rounded up to a 5. I give the film a 5. I think it was excellent. I would recommend. I think people who like film should watch it. I don't know if I'd recommend it to just any person just speaking. Well, I don't know, actually. I feel like it, because of the serious tone that the movie takes, that actually might be more acceptable by a modern audience. Just because there are a lot more movies that are more serious and more tonally similar. So
yeah,
and actually the more realistic acting, I think, also kind of could engage a modern audience more. So
yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you too much there. I gave it a 4.2, which rounds to a 4 out of 5, which is an 84%. So yes, I would recommend this movie. I liked it a lot. I thought the drama of the characters and even the dialogue was really, really good, even if I had no idea what they were really saying. But you could tell what they were saying with the like you could read their expressions, right? You don't actually have to know what they're saying. And I just thought the camera work was fantastic and really next level stuff.
Probably the strongest point of the film.
Yeah, I would agree. That alone is why I would recommend it. Is the cinematography is just incredible.
It's true,
especially for a movie from 1958. Because I guess it didn't come to the U.S. till 60 or 61, and so that's why some places say 61, some places say 58.
That makes sense.
A lot of weird stuff like that happens with international movies.
Yeah,
like I want to say, for example, like the Dollars trilogy. Most of those were like 61, 62, but we didn't get them all until 66.
Really?
It's something like that. Like we got them all at once a couple years after they'd already been made and released. Just how it's very different now. Like now we have wide releases, worldwide releases, but back then, no. You were lucky if your local theater got the same movie as the next town over, you know?
Yeah. That's actually interesting. Just reminded me that the film had to receive permission to get screened. So just distribution in general, it had to have. So it was, for example, it wasn't given permission to be screened at the Cannes Film Festival, but later it did appear at the Venice Film Festival, and it won some awards initially. And so I wonder how that too would affect its distribution and reception. I don't know. Anyways,
that definitely does have an effect with that because a lot of international movies premiere there and then they're sent to the US or other countries. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's very different now. I mean, now you can put a movie on YouTube, you know, anybody can watch it. Very, very different.
Yes.
All right. Well, those are our thoughts on Ashes and Diamonds from 1958. And before we close, Hunter, any last words you want to say to the audience?
I'm only slightly embarrassed that the film did better in our letterbox scores than I did on any of my finals this semester. So, I mean, I gave it a pretty good score, but even your 80, what was your 80 what?
84%.
Your 84%, still better. So, and that's saying something because I usually get good grades. So, but no, I don't have anything else to say. Excellent movie. I enjoyed every second of it. Makes me want to draw. So,
yeah. Would you buy the Criterion of it?
I think I would personally. This is kind of more my jam.
Yeah.
I think a little more serious, a little more slow paced.
Yeah. I kind of figured you would like it just from the poster alone.
There is some really cool art or like media for the movie. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
You should look it up. There's just some striking images in general that. Yeah.
Yeah. Check out the Criterion poster for it. It actually looks really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on, Hunter.
Yeah.
Love having you on and talking about these old weird movies.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. I enjoy getting to have a newfound respect for another era of art and art making. So very cool.
Yeah. Don't you just love HBO Max, man? It's so great.
It's so great. There's so much good stuff on there.
Yeah. I guess Max. I refuse to call it Max. It feels so wrong. Because the name was already like a combination of names. HBO and Cinemax, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what are they doing?
So funny. You and Conan O'Brien.
He said that too, I think.
Yeah.
That's probably where I got it. I don't know. Like, I like Zaslav. Most people don't. I don't care. But there's some things like that. I'm like, really? Really? Ugh. Well, I hope they stay open for a while longer because I know Warner is really in the red right now. It's like, makes me very nervous about.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah.
I've been loving staying off of social media, but I now realize how much cultural or semi-political you know what's going on a little bit by looking at social media. Maybe not. It's not the best source, but
no.
You know what's going on with the culture at least.
Right. Yeah. But then again, too much is also not good. Because then you're constantly worrying. You're like, oh, here's the next thing. Oh, here's the next thing, right?
True.
So it's kind of nice to be away from that. But I don't know. For me, I like keeping up with how the studios are doing because I love Turner Classic Movies, for example. But if Warner goes under, so does Turner Classic, right? So
yeah.
Oof.
Interesting.
They got to stop making $300 to $400 million superhero movies that are terrible.
That I can get behind. That is an opinion I can support.
They need to just make $10-30 million movies, not one crappy $400 million movie.
I think we should just be happy with what we got. Stop making art and drink the Kool-Aid together.
What? I mean, I guess video games and social media and all of that are kind of what most people do now anyway, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
So the movies are dead, everyone.
Movies are dead. We're all dead.
But you know what? So are most of the people in this movie.
Yeah. Well, just like we learned from the big news character, try all you want, do your best. You're still going to get shot in the back in the end. No, I'm just playing. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Just because the movie is sad doesn't mean we have to be.
Yep. But it's a good reminder sometimes.
Yes.
All right. Well, and with that, thank you all so much for watching and listening to today's episode. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Really Old Movies, where I discuss details about the week's particular film. New podcasts are released Saturdays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music, and video versions on YouTube and Rumble Mondays at 7 p.m. All right. Thanks again for coming on, Hunter. And make sure to follow his Letterboxd if you want to hear his spicy reviews on some movies.
Yes.
Especially Dune. That's a good spicy review.
Oh, I've left some good reviews recently. Personally, I'm a fan of my Hellboy review.
Oh, yeah. Did you give it a 5?
I did.
I think I did too. I love that movie.
I love that movie.
It's so good. So nostalgic for me.
Yep.
But with that, this has been Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. This is my very special guest, Hunter. Take care, everyone.